just a couple seconds. It should. Perfect. Okay. And we're good. Perfect. Hi, everyone, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel for another live with Jochen Schleese. For those of you who are new here, he owns Schleese Saddlery, which has been doing a ton of really cool things to modernize saddle fitting and the horse industry as a whole. Today, though, our talk is going to be a little bit different than ones we've had in the past. We're going to talk about the current economic situation with inflation and how this could impact the horse industry and how we see it affecting the horses. So I'm going to let Jochen introduce himself here, and if anyone has any questions, you can comment them in the live chat, and we'll try to get through to them at some point during this live. So feel free to ask away, and yeah, we'll just go into it right away.
Hey Shelby, good seeing you again. Hello everybody who has listened in the past to Shelby myself, so welcome back. And to everybody who hasn't, my name is Jochen Schleese. I grew up in Buenos Aires in Argentina, fell in love there. Back to Germany, where I was actually born, and I rode there 3-day eventing. For me, horses was the only thing I really wanted to do. Then I'd rather become a veterinarian. Just by fluke, I became a saddle maker. I worked in several saddle making companies throughout Europe, as well as in England. And then through fluke, I ended up in Canada. And myself as a horseback rider, and the topic today is how inflation affects the industry. And I bet you that every horse owner always struggles with money. At least I did when I grew up with horses. You know, everything is so expensive. And now almost with the inflation we live in, it gets even more difficult. So when I grew up in Germany with horses, what I hated with a passion is, for example, hay. You know, it keeps rising for various reasons. And then before I become a saddle maker, I never really appreciated or I understood why tack is so expensive. It's necessary. We do need tack, you know, even if
Oh, it cut out there.
so you have these equipments, and some of them are, oh yeah, okay, let me see if I
yeah, it's cutting out a little bit.
Has internet too, and it constantly jumps on Wi-Fi.
Oh,
And this should be better now. So am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you properly now.
Okay. So as I was saying, growing up with horses, there was always a money issue. And when I went into the tack business, how much work is it to make a saddle, to sell a saddle, buy a saddle, fit a saddle? And that's what we want to talk to today a bit. You know, then we have on top Corona worldwide. We have you, Shelby, you got this nasty weather with flooding. It's like non-stop challenge. How are you doing, by the way?
Now we're good. We got a dry week. The only catch was that it's dry, but with like super dense fog during the morning and the night. So it's dry, but also not dry because you can't really, like, it's like walking through moisture. But it's preferable to what we've been getting, so it's better. But we are experiencing a pretty bad hay shortage here. Because of all the flooding and then the fires, and like a lot of people lost their hay supply in the floods, and then a lot of hay makers and suppliers could not cut enough hay this year because of the weather. So I'm sure like hay prices here are skyrocketing, and it's going to be kind of a concern going into spring, because until all these places do start doing their first cut, there's going to be that time period where people are like desperate for hay and we're running low. So it's definitely concerning. And I've noticed too that it's increasing how many horses are ending up at auction and the number of people who need to rehome horses. So like the horse market is skyrocketing, but it's also like a lot of people can't afford to have horses right now because of the hay shortage.
It's unbelievable. It's how it goes from one extreme to another. You know, first there was COVID, and we had a lot of people who didn't come to the barn, right? And the trainer, you guys were so flooded by extra work.
Oh yeah.
People bought horses left, right, center, and now it completely swing.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
And I thought I used this topic today because let's be realistic and look forward and positive in terms of where's this all going to go. So let's hopefully that this is the last wave with with COVID and the supply chain. We all heard it. Myself as a manufacturer, we're struggling with this, and we're also seeing a lot of stuff just is laying in depot because there are no truck drivers. So restrictions. So how can we make this topic interesting? How can we look at it and for us for people who still have the fortunate to have horses, I thought I'm sharing my screen and start with this picture. And I chose that because I have a lot of friends who are not into horses. It says, oh yeah, when non-horse people think of horses, they think, oh, let's make a little money and go to the racetrack, buy a racehorse and make a lot of money.
Oh, definitely.
But by the time this horse wins, most people have no idea how much money get into this horse, right? So there's tons and tons and tons of money goes into it. And I'm just talking about, well, my topic I'm known for is saddles. So we cannot stop the weather. We cannot stop the situation where we live in right now. But what we could stop, and I find that, Shelby, in my industry, I see the saddle prices going through the roof. And I was asking myself, why is that? Why is the price on the saddle so high? And then I thought, well, we have supply chain, to get the stuff to us costs a lot of money. The rising costs, you see it when you go in the supermarket, everything is more expensive. So I can see it, but what I do not understand, is that people spend $8,000 on saddles, what cannot be adjusted.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. So if I'm in a spiral downwards in terms of everything costs money, the last I want to do is increase my vet bills, increase my downtime on my horse. If I can afford to still ride, and now I can't ride because the horse bugs me off because the horse is in pain or the saddle doesn't fit. So now I have to fit that saddle. Oops, I can't fit it. My opinion, even a saddle for $5,000 is too much if you can't fit it. But the top saddles out there, the brand saddles, they're all so expensive. So I ask myself, how come that we still sell so many saddles? And I think finally people realize, wait a minute, if I can get a saddle, I can have fitted and I don't have to rebuy or get another saddle when I get another horse. Why not? We do know from veterinarians, there is a lot of lameness caused by saddles. We do know that the interface between horse and rider is the saddle, let's face it. And if I want to make sure my downtime, my veterinarian, my problems, and massage therapy, all is down to the minimum, I encourage everybody to really think of think about the virtual custom fit system. The virtual custom fit system is something you can now learn how to fit your saddle yourself. And my approach, and from a business owner, sure, we make a lot of money to drive around and fit saddles. But as a business owner, I also know what you already said, Shelby. A lot of people can't afford horses anymore. Right? So if I can change my saddle fitting, because here is the reason why the horses change, right? So if I don't change my saddle, I run into massive problems. So I wanted to take the moment and readdress this virtual custom fit system, because here, to keep your costs low, you can actually learn, with a tool to cut out, so you can change with a stencil, has my horse changed? Or with a phone, has my angle of my horses changed? If you don't change the saddle, well, this is a given. And if I don't want that on top of my expense, then I need to call a fitter, would cost money, or I have to deal with behavior issue because now I have massive pressure into the gullet plate. And I mean, you have experiences before, and we have done now several live streams where you and I have talked about the difference you feel when the saddle fits. So I thought this is where you can jump in a little bit and see from what you have learned since you and I work together, you try a couple of saddles, what the horse's behavior and well-being and cost can be lower if they go into equipment, what A, they can adjust themselves, or B, what can be adjusted.
Yeah, I would say like being able to do regular adjustments, or at least be like extend you off the measurements and have it checked for them. I think that could save people a lot of money. And the other thing that I would say is, yeah, the adjustability, because I think that some of the other companies that don't have adjustable saddles, they try very hard not to like explicitly say that when they're selling them. Like there'll be excuses made as to like, oh, like this is why it's no problem that you're getting this custom fit saddle that can't have the panels adjusted. Like they'll make up excuses as to why it's not something you'll need to worry or consider, and then people believe it and end up running into trouble. Like I know a lot of people who've ordered saddles from those types of companies who have then gotten the custom saddle only to have it not fit the horse, and then they're like 10 grand in the hole and have a saddle that a lot of them never end up using. Like there's a lot of brand new saddles from those types of companies that are always for sale for those reasons. And I think that those types of companies don't want their customers to learn how to become self-sufficient in fitting a saddle, because then it would give them more means to be like, hey, this isn't working and I've only had this saddle for like X number of days. So I think that giving people the skill set to check their own saddle fit, or at least be a little bit more independent in checking it, is a huge thing. And then also just like, yeah, like the access to really understand, like, these are questions that, like, regardless of what company you buy your saddle from, here's some questions you should be asking your fitter. And if they can't answer them, you might want to go somewhere else. Or if they answer them with the wrong answer, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, that's very well said, and like you said, there's many people who say, oh yeah, it doesn't need to be adjusted in the panel or the gullet. But I mean, we all have a belly button. We all have opinions. Mm-hmm. But in the end of the day, anatomy is what it is. Mm-hmm. When I sit on the horse, these muscle, the pectoralis and the serratus, the second I put weight on it, good rider, bad rider, Western English, it doesn't matter. These muscles gets bigger and it changes. Mm-hmm. Yes, there is saddles where you can change the angle, but I would always recommend a saddle you self-adjust or a saddle your fitter adjust needs to be adjusted in the angle and in the width. Mm-hmm. These are the two biggest takeaway points I want to bring across. Furthermore, what I trying to bring in today's economic times, like you said, get that regular checked. You can learn it yourself. Our website makes it very easy. If you say, I'm not, it's too important for me, I don't want to do it ourselves, we can do it with you online, and we can come to your place, So you got all these different cost factors, but that definitely saves you in the long run. And I see it. I mean, I ask sometimes customer, wow, and I ask myself, wow, they're spending still so much money. And I thought I'm talking about this subject today because I have more and more customers who says, why would I be wasteful with my money if I cannot change that saddle to another horse I'm going to have, or while the horse changes? Why would I buy constantly a $5,000 saddle new, right? And then you got those popular saddles that can't even be adjusted in the panel length, or they can't even be adjusted in the shifting or twisting. Oh yeah, use a pad, use a shim.
Pad, yeah.
right? And I mean, a half pad is okay, but the real issue is not padding it up. It makes it worse. So all these items, all these 12 points, if they don't are adjustable on your saddle, I always recommend you folks, don't buy it. If you need a new saddle, ask these questions. If they say it doesn't need to, then you ask yourself, so do all these veterinarians really don't know anything and only the saddle sales people have a clue? So ask yourself this question before you believe some hocus pocus salesperson. So these are, no pun intended, straight from the horse's mouth. These are the facts what so many clinical studies have shown needs to be adjusted. So my favorite part is if I have a saddle and I'm a pleasure rider or I do sports. Yeah, I think we all know we care so much for the horse. We take this extra cost, this extra burden on to keep this horse. And most people who do that do it because they love it. And last, they do not want to have a saddle, what hurts them. Because when somebody tells you, here's a custom fit saddle, and it doesn't need to fit anymore, that doesn't exist. Because in nature, the horse is in the herd and runs around, there is no weight on it.
Mm-hmm.
The saddle fit, as I said here on the slide, it doesn't exist in nature. What we, and you mentioned just now, what we need to do is constantly check on it to see, hey, is it still okay? Is there any problems? What I can solve fast? And that's kind of what my home takeaway message is. Really look into equipment, what fits, not just the person's opinion. Before you get this big ticket here, there's a lot of money you got to spend to get there. So look into saddles what can fit. And when I say fit, I kind of feel like a broken record. But if somebody tells you this saddle fits, if it's behind the mane, but in the ring of lights, in other words, in the lumbar, and I make it fit with a pad or with the stuffing, it won't work. It won't work. And sure, I keep saying it over again, but you can also use the Fitbit for horses. It's all there. It shows it. And
yeah, that's cool.
And I can only encourage people, don't fall for fashion. Don't go with opinions. Follow scientific facts. So the companies, including myself, we constantly trying to say, okay, how can we make it more affordable for riders? We looking into less expensive leather. Some people say, no, if I spend $1,000 for a saddle or $2,000, that's a lot of money, especially when I have to pay the next table. So then I don't want leather, what keeps bleaching. Then there is the synthetic material. We're working on that as well. Anything we can do to keep the people in there or on their horses more comfortable. But I think the long-term saving is in a good saddle you can adjust to the 12 points I just shared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's too like the long-term thing. Like people kind of like, I think they often underestimate how much money they actually spend collectively when you're like buying half pads or chiro treatments or massage and stuff to like help your horse cope with a saddle that can't be adjusted or doesn't fit. I think a lot of people underestimate how much they're spending, and then they use that as a reason to be like, oh, I can't afford to get a different saddle or one that can be adjusted like this or that, because they'll be like, oh, we already put this much money into this. But I definitely used to underestimate how much money I was putting into like the upfront cost would be less, but over like a period of time that like a saddle should easily last longer, then I'd actually be spending more.
So when you see a picture like this here, that doesn't look comfortable how that lady rides. And that's kind of what you and I talked in the past. I am just I can't, maybe you can help me a little bit to understand that, Shelby, because I still can't understand if there is breeches for men and breeches for women, underwear for men and women. And yet there are saddles for men and women, but yet still many, many women ride in male saddles. Why is that? What in your opinion?
I think part of it is sexism, because I think that like a lot of stuff is still catered towards men, like in and out of the horse world. And I've just noticed it, like as a female horse trainer, I have to work way harder to prove myself, especially with difficult or dangerous horses that people think need to be like overpowered. I have to work harder to like prove that I'm as deserving of the same type of things that men get awarded freely. So I think the saddle thing is more, it's less about people not realizing the differences in body, but it's because like initially we were making saddles for men and women were only riding inside saddles. So then as things started to change, people didn't really care enough to like make it freely available. And then I would say another hurdle that makes it harder would be for like transgender and non-binary people. Putting like a gender label on it might make them not want to pick either one, even if in theory, like anatomically, one would be better for them. That like a more generalized label might help people with that as well. But I like, that's just my opinion. We'd have to ask them how they feel, like the trans community and people who identify that way. But I think it would be cool to I guess like, yeah, talk about the body difference, because even like what I've noticed as like a woman, and I think you've mentioned this as like a difference in anatomy, being longer through the femur when you're a woman and getting a flap that fits that at the right angle. You almost always need to have like an extra long flap if you're really long-legged like me, or the flap angle has to be different because my femur will go at a different angle than someone who's longer through the calf, where their leg will like drape a little bit more. Like I have like grasshopper legs because of it, is how I word it. And it's taken until very recently that I've actually gotten saddles that can accommodate my leg, which is interesting. But like honestly, like I think a lot of it is just tons of misinformation, because I literally did not know that there was a difference in saddle trees based off of like the shape of your, I didn't know that was a thing, like off of the shape of your pelvis until very, very recently. Like never ever mentioned. It was just like, oh, you fit the seat to you, you fit the flap to you, and then like the rest is to your horse, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So, and if you read this here, there's a little spell check there, but there is a well-known, people know that in general, the girls have a more curvature in the lower back, and they all know that tailbone is shorter. They all know, even the skinny girls have a birth channel, because there is no guys, even in the transgender, who can bear a child through their pelvis. But for me, what I thought was very interesting, and I didn't catch that first, is the balances of the axis. So in other words, when a woman sits on the saddle, where your hip socket is, right? The male is in the center, on the women is in the front. So you have more weight on the back, and the ladies tend to collapse faster. Maybe not that extreme, but given the fact that there is such a difference in the pelvis axis, in other words, where your pelvis pivots, it's just never thought about it, So, and that is just nature. This is not, like you said, there's misinformation out there. This is not known, right? And I would like to see how saddle manufacturers who don't believe in gender appropriate saddles argue that point. It's all about the seat. Your seat is the most important aid. And if
they should be fitting saddles to like people too, you'd think. Like it should be less focused on just fitting the horse too, because like you said, like how the person sits affects the saddle. So if more saddle companies were like, oh, we need to fit you to the saddle in like more than just the seat, basically, and make sure you're comfortable and sitting properly, then they could solve the problems they create. But I think a lot of them are so focused on just like selling it and having people just agree to it that they don't really care about educating them to make them more self-sufficient, because it actually goes to their benefit if people don't know what they're doing, because then if the saddle stops working sooner, then they get another payout. And I think that's hard too. And then also outwardly, like if you're looking at a saddle that the tree like is already inside the saddle, you cannot see it. Is there a way to just look at a saddle and tell what type of tree it has? Like based off of looking at it. Yeah, that's the other thing that I guess would be hard too, is like the saddle companies that don't really specify or say like how their trees are made. It's like how do you check? And like you'd have to do research on each individual saddle, I guess.
Today with the internet, it's so much easy, and there is no reason, because all manufacturers, everybody wants to sell. Everybody's in the same boat, So if they don't tell you what's inside and explain you explicit how it's being changed, they're obviously trying to hide something. But I got a question for you. Through all your riding career, when you were measured for saddles, have they taken all these measurements I showed you here?
No, they just be like, oh, like you look like you're this size seat, and then that's about it.
And it's here's a good analogy. Here you got a female, and a male. Now look at this female. It's 5'5", and this is 5'4". Yes, there's a huge difference in the weight, but check out the upper leg on this female versus this female.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? So you see, it's almost reversed. So this female has a longer lower body, which is unusual. Longer lower leg. Normally, B is the length of the lower leg, A is the upper leg. So normally the upper leg is longer, right? And look at this here. This male is 5'9". It has the same legs as this small lady, 5'5". Same inch, 18.5, 17.5. Right? So the interesting part, what we measure, is the circumference of the thigh, right there. And if you take a circle and you divide it through pi, you get the distance from the circle. That distance, see the tree point here, what you can't see? That thigh has to sit between this corner here. You can't see this either. This is a plastic edge, or in the cheaper saddle, they make it out of hard felt or leather. Okay, so that distance from here to here, if your thigh doesn't fit in between, you always will have hip problems or your leg will go forward. It's a guarantee, because you cannot force your leg over something what has no room. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I'm saying that, why, like you took the word out of my mouth, why would you buy always another saddle, always over and over again? In today's days, with the way everything costs, it's too much money. Get yourself fitted once. I get it. If you're a child and you still grow, you obviously need another saddle. I get it. If you're a person and you say, oh, I'm 50 pounds overweight and I want to lose 50 pounds, I get it. Not just do you need a new saddle, you also need new riding pants, new boots, etc. That's a lot of weight. But in average, adults don't swing that much in the weight. 35 pounds up and 35 pounds down allows you to be still in the same saddle. That's a 70 pounds fluctuation. But if you go one way or the other, more than 35 pounds, then you're probably looking at a new saddle. If you don't change it and you pick all these 9 points for your body, for your skeleton, that is for me the most crucial part. If I'm a skier, which I am, I always grew up on always skied. I always have done downhill skiing. For me, my boot is very important. And then I fly with that boot around the world and I rent skis that fit the bindings to the boot. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to fit today's modern saddles to the horse. So that's why I really, really thought it's a good topic again to bring it to your audience out there, and says, if you're thinking of a new saddle, make sure you get measured, either online or you get people come to you and they take all these 5 measurements. Super, super important. Basically from there, you can see here, same female, completely different legs, and the height with the male and the female, the same legs. So the variations can be huge. So get measured to avoid the disc problems, okay, the soft tissue issues, and the joint damage. Now, again, these are not my words. I'm not a medical doctor, but I love surrounding myself with experts who written book about that. And when they say that, that there is a massive difference between male and female, who am I to question a medical doctor?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I rode on the German team, or because I make a lot of saddles, or because I fit saddles and teach fitting? No, I have no right to form an opinion. But there's many people out there, and you heard it yourself, right, Shelby?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
yeah.
I'm built more like a man. I can ride in the male saddle. What?
Well, and it's just like, if you could ride better in a better size saddle, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's like, wouldn't you rather do that? Because I don't know, I have back problems in my lower back, and like, I don't know if they're from the saddle in specific or from falling off or what, but I definitely do have back and hip problems. And I probably shouldn't have them this young in life. So
And here's the other thing. I mean, you make your living by training horses.
yeah.
And you still have horses in the barn what eat, and want to be fed. That means
Yeah, exactly.
if you ride them or not, they cost you money. So if you don't train, you don't make money. So it's a vicious cycle, And if I'm not a trainer like you, and I don't depend on training horses nonstop, and I just have a horse for pleasure, why would I have a horse if I can never ride him because I'm in pain or the horse is in pain?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
and then it's just wasting money. Yeah.
I'm amazed how many people now are getting more money conscientious. And I guess that's why we have such an increase in questions and sales. So I'm not complaining, but I'm still run once a while into a manufacturer, saddle salesperson, or sponsored trainer who says, oh no, I have a saddle, fits all my horses. Never needs to be.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
This half pad makes my saddle fit every horse.
Yeah. Or my pelvis is like a man. That's no matter how skinny you are, you always have that short tailbone and your balance axis is forward. That is.
Well, and also, unless people have like x-rayed their actual pelvis, it's like, how do you know that it's different? You just gotta, but yeah, and I have it. Like, hopefully I'll never need to, because if you're getting your pelvis x-rayed, it's probably because you think you broke it. So
yeah, 100%.
But
well, what do you find besides the hay and people selling horses now another challenging factor in your point of view?
Like, I would say for people that feed a lot of grain, that would be a problem, but I personally don't. So like, I'm not seeing problems with that. However, because of the hay shortages, I would say it's harder to get like beet pulp and like bagged cubes and hay pellets and all that stuff, because people who are running short on hay are now stocking up more on that sort of stuff. So we're seeing shortages for that and shavings and stuff as well. And I think at least part of it is because of the flooding. People lost a lot of their storage, so they had to buy more. Whereas if you'd already bought for like a regular winter and you didn't get flooded out and have all your stock damaged, you'd probably be good until like March, if that's what you do. So there's still, yeah, the prices on all of those things are going up. They're harder to get and they sell out more. Like pretty much every other week at the feed store, one of the chicken scratches is sold out. Like it rotates because everyone's buying the one that they have when they sell out of the other one, because they're so close that it's like you just make do. And I see the same thing happening with like shavings and whatnot as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about shoeing? Do you shoe your horses? Do you
No.
go barefoot?
I've been lucky, like all of mine are barefoot right now, and I use hoof boots when they need something. So like I haven't had to, but like shoeing prices, like I haven't had to shoe recently, that is. But when I was putting shoes on them like over the summer while they were like adapting to barefoot, it's definitely way more expensive than it was. Like I used to pay like around 110 for a full set of shoes. And now it's like more like 200. And like, especially if you want any specialty types of shoes, like that's just with the generic like metal shoes, nothing special. But if you wanted to get like the Duplo shoes or frog support shoes, or shoes with a pad or pour-in pads, you're looking at 250 plus to 300, and very expensive, especially if your horse pulls shoes.
For some people, you can do a little bit, not the full trimming, but you can rasp a little bit if you have a little clip here and there. There's a lot you can do. If you are lucky enough, you can go barefoot. But what I also heard a lot lately is all of this is part of the circle of influence. And the way the tag fits, if the saddle pinches your shoulders and they can't move their front leg out, it's incredible how good it is hearing when the customer says, oh my God, since I have my saddle adjusted, or I have a saddle from you guys, he does not rip his shoes off anymore. Because how annoying is that? You have just spent, like you said, the average $200. Now you got to call your farrier back. Never mind all the holes in the hoof wall, or what breaks it off.
Oh yeah, and then they're always like, yeah, especially if they pull shoes all the time, like mine used to.
It's crazy. So what it's necessary, the no hoof, no horse, I get it. But if farriers document and say all of a sudden, wow, your horse rolls his foot much better, places his foot much better, they see a change in the growth. For example, we all know the high heel and low heel syndrome, where one foot has no heel, the other one has way too much heel. And when the farrier tells you, hey, there's some positive changes, and A, he doesn't have to come back so much, or B, there's no such a problem with the hoofs all of a sudden, that's an improvement which also can save you a lot of money. And if the equipment, proper riding, proper knowledge can help you with this, that helps you get by in these tough times.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice too that I think that that's the thing, is people need to start addressing certain issues before they realize that it actually helps as much as it does. Because I don't think a lot of people would attribute like most of their horses' issues to being saddle fit related, even if it's like chronic lameness issues. And I'd find that like a lot of them are more likely to just start going and getting like injections and stuff done, which is like not cheaper, especially repeatedly over time, like while degrading your horse's body. But a lot of it's like instant gratification and wanting to I guess like see an immediate change rather than see like a better quality change that might happen less immediately. But like, because even just waiting for a custom saddle, I find that like is enough of a deterrent if they're like, oh, I can go get his hocks injected on Friday, let's go. And then and a lot of people don't like admitting that their tack doesn't fit. It's a weird mindset.
It's almost embarrassing,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
One of the facts is we know that horses have 32 growth plates on the backbone, on the spine, what doesn't close until he's, 6 or 7 years old. Bone changes all the time. And we know that the upper arm sometimes is deformed. Is it through one-sided training on the racetrack? Is it through whatever? Horses are not symmetric. So if my saddle cannot be adjusted to the uneven shoulder, that's a big problem. And very common, very, very often horses have transitional vertebrae. What I heard about it is that the nerve that comes here out of the hole goes normally underneath. But if they have a transitional vertebrae, it's on top, super sensitive. They even react to a saddle pad on there. So here you wonder why he won't bend to the left or to the right, right? Mm-hmm. Always deviates, and no matter what the farrier does, what you do, the horse goes crooked. You've seen that picture before where this guy is hanging to that side or the saddle falls to the right. This is a common problem. And if I have a saddle, I can do myself, adjust that very quick, check with my cutout. I can not only prevent my horse from here's the cartilage and the bone structure because the stupid tree is too narrow. Whatever reason, the horse got wider. I got a new horse. So before I do all this damage, lickety split, I can do it myself. Either I do it with the saddle where I have, I can unscrew this panel and I can, instead of put it in a saddle pad with has shims, I can put that in here. Or I have an attachable pad, what is literally attached by this Velcro underneath here. So it's just very similar to a Western saddle.
Mm-hmm.
Back to what I was saying earlier.
That's cool.
If I want to have a saddle what avoids this lumbar area, transitional vertebrae, the lung meridian point, allows the horse to go free. How cool is it? You can learn it yourself. I mean, you younger folks, you are so computer savvy.
I would say that's like the online world has made this so much easier for people to learn.
Yeah, and for older people like me, I don't want to do it. So then you can be with the FaceTime with your phone, and somebody walks you step by step through. Now you do this, now you put it on top. Now your horse doesn't go like this anymore; he goes like this. Now you don't fall back, you don't go in the chair seat. So we can fit the balance right there with you on the spot. Make sure that the billets are hanging straight, and you don't need to jerk them forward. And that's again where I go with. You can do all kinds of things. If you say, hey, I need a little bit more income, I would like to become a sales rep for Schleese, I can do this. I learned it online. Or if you say, no, I don't want to do it, there's all these opportunities we're trying to offer to our clients, and that of course comes in the jumping and the dressage. Have you had any of those 4 saddles yet?
I've had not one of those ones yet. I think that's what I'm getting next, because right now I'm still testing the exercise saddle, because since of all of our bad weather, we have not really done a whole lot of riding. So
I should have brought you a floating saddle.
Yeah, exactly. I need a boat. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to trying the boundless one is one of the ones that I was looking into like ordering for when we get like a saddle for Banksy to be started in. But definitely I want to do both the jump and dressage saddles, because those ones make the most sense for me to have as a trainer anyways, because they're the most adjustable. So I think that's the route I would go, because like I generally get sport horse types too. So it's nice because most of them are close enough in their builds that it's not going to be like wildly different adjustments, but then it'll mean that I can avoid having issues with client horses that don't have their own saddles, which is a big
pressure
thing.
On the boundless saddle. The gullet plate is in the front, the stirrup bar is attached here, and that's where all the pressure comes. With the new stirrup bar, with the boundless are, all the contact is in the center. It's nothing on the shoulder anymore.
That I'm really looking forward to doing that, like testing it with horses especially since I have like highly sensitive horses. They're very, like for Milo especially, it'd be interesting to see.
That's awesome. I can't wait. It's too bad that the weather is so bad, because
and I can't believe it's not like it's something that it's like, why have like we should have been doing this the whole time, and you guys are just ahead of the game saddle fit wise. Like hopefully more people start catching on and seeing what you're doing, because like I don't know, like for me, like I would never want, like, not that I had like $10,000 to drop on a custom saddle when I was like a junior rider, but like I would never want to invest that kind of, like, it costs more than a vehicle at that point, and then it's like it should at least be adjustable. It's like buying a car that you can't adjust your seat or your steering wheel on, can't drive it properly as a result. But yeah,
absolutely, you have said that so well. So hopefully we brought the message across. I don't think we're going to make it to an hour today.
I think it's great information for people, and shorter positive sessions are sometimes better for people, just like with horses.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to testing all of that too, because I think it'll be really exciting to.
Do you know when it's coming?
Not yet. I have to talk to Marie Claire, and also finish testing the Destiny Light saddle, which I love. Like I think that in itself, like I'm getting a taste of what you're doing with the sport horse saddles, with the racing one, because like also like the racing industry's behind with having like adjustable saddles as well, obviously, and your saddle doesn't even like it doesn't ride like an exercise saddle, because you actually have something to sit in. So yeah,
well, I don't know if you told you, but it started in the South Africa. And the catch riders over there, they are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very beginnerish. Right? They're taking very, very cheap labor. And when you see those videos, you go, oh my Lord, bouncing on the back, and that hurts so much.
Poor horses, yeah.
Right? And then those people, says you got to do something that they're not landing on the horse's spine all the time.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a little bit different than just a true racing saddle.
Oh, I can't, like, I think it'll be really cool to like start once the season here starts up again. If I still have it here with me, I'd love to take it to the track to see what other people think.
You have to.
Because I think, yeah, some of them are like, we need to see it to believe it. So it'd be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much again for doing this.
You take care. Stay
Thank
warm.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.